New at 6, text messages obtained by Channel 2 Action News and the Atlanta Journal-Constitution shed some new light on efforts by former Atlanta Mayor Kasim Reed's administration to keep reporters from getting potentially embarrassing public records. Investigative reporter Richard Belcher says what news organizations long suspected, we now know to be true. Richard with us live at City Hall.
Justin, state law in Georgia requires that the public have access to everything from travel records to contracts, but getting those records depends on whether public officials comply with the law. In two such incidents involving Channel 2, a public records expert says the city of Atlanta's behavior was so shocking that the state attorney general should get involved.
I am shocked, frankly.
The president of the Georgia First Amendment Foundation about resistance to our investigation of city officials' water bills. Our first request for the bills of then Mayor Kasim Reed and his brother Tracy. It triggered this exchange between Lillian Govus, then at Watershed, and Jenna Garland, who was press secretary for the mayor. Govus, big expletive problem, involves MKR and Tracy, got an open records request from WSB. Turns out thousands in unpaid water bills, properties owned by MKR and Tracy. We got the records for the mayor and his brother, then asked for the bills of one city councilman. The mayor's press secretary texted Watershed, be as unhelpful as possible, drag this out as long as possible, and provide information in the most confusing format available. 2 weeks later, Channel 2 asked for bills of all city council members. Well after the request should have been filled, Garland texted Govus, hold all the council docs until Tara asks for update. When we couldn't reach Jenna Garland, we tried to question her at her home. Morning, Jenna. Like to talk to you about these emails, these texts, where you clearly attempted to evade the law. What can you tell us?
What these city officials managed to do was to take what would have been a relatively minor embarrassment and to turn it into a full-on cover-up. And that's the kind of thing that you cannot do in a democracy.
Just a few weeks later, we got a tip that Mayor Reed and 9 other city employees were flying to South Africa. That's a long flight, so we wondered whether they would fly business class, which is 3 or 4 times more expensive than coach. When we requested the records, Mayor Reed's communications director, Ann Torres, texted back, there are no records. But when we finally got them, they revealed that 7 tickets costing almost $56,000 had already been purchased by the time Ann Torres told me there are no records. State law says a public agency should say within 3 days when it will provide records and provide them within a reasonable period of time. It took the city nearly 3 months to produce the South Africa records.
This is exactly the kind of thing that the state sunshine laws were set up to prevent. There's no doubt in my mind that the Attorney General should be looking into this.
Lillian Govus provided us with those text messages, but she declined to be interviewed. Ann Torres, who is now the communications director for Mayor Bottoms, said she knew nothing about the text messages sent by her former subordinate, Jenna Garland. About the travel expenses, Torres said there were no expense reports available when we requested, but what we sought, very clearly stated, was we wanted all records related to travel costs, and those did exist. Live at City Hall in downtown Atlanta, Richard Belcher, Channel 2 Action News.
Now more details from our initial investigation. Then Mayor Kasim Reed had no outstanding water bills. His brother Tracy owned a rental home where the unpaid bills had topped $9,000. 4 council members and then Council President Caesar Mitchell had a record of unpaid bills. One of the council members was Keisha Lance Bottoms, now Atlanta's mayor.